Cold Harbour is a story of a downtrodden policeman who is trying to rise through the ranks and is faced with a challenge which questions his integrity and his future, and he decides to forego historical loyalties to protect his own integrity. Cold Harbour is based on set in the world in Cape Town of triad Chinese mafia gangsters who were responsible for a lot of smuggling of shellfish and importing of drugs in South Africa. And this is based on a true story that happened in the 90s. I guess in a contemporary way. I think the film's still relevant because it talks about corruption, it talks about police corruption, it talks about institutional corruption, and that is still very relevant in society today in South Africa. So in the sense, the film is timeless in that manner. One of the reasons that I made Cold Harbour was that the story resonated for me because it was a story about corruption, which is really endemic in the South African society. And for me, films have to be good entertainment, but they have to also be socially relevant. And I think that, whilst of course there's crime and corruption in South Africa, there's also a huge amount of wonderful things that are happening in South Africa at the same time. And I think that, for us it's important that the stories that we tell reflect the society in which we live in at any given point in any given time. And we want to, with our movies, put a mirror onto society and ask us to, ask our audience to look inward and question the things that they may take for granted or turn a blind eye to in society. So corruption is a big problem across Africa. But at the end of the day, corruption is an issue that can be dealt with, I think. And I think it's very important for us to be able to tell our stories in a truthful and authentic way. And I don't think we should shy away from the fact that there is corruption. Of course there's corruption. There's corruption all over the world. And there's corruption in many different forms all over the world. But I live in this particular world, and that's why I tell the story for the particular world that I know of. I can't make a story about corruption in Russia or corruption in the United States or corruption in America because I don't know much about it. Are we going to make a part 2 of Cold Harbour? I don't think so. I think there's a wealth of other stories to tell, and I'm interested in telling so many more stories that are out there and that they're richer. And I'm also interested in telling stories outside of South Africa. I'm making 5 films in Nigeria. I'm doing a television series in Kenya called The Nairobians with Toshki Tonga. There's a lot of really interesting stories that are waiting to be told across the continent, and I guess I'm spreading the love in that way. So.